Hi, and welcome back. Focal Point After Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. Let's grab a couple of sound bites, and we'll go to the phones, 888-589-8840. Here is Reince Priebus talking about Senator Portman again and about the need to rebrand the Republican Party. And he says in doing so, you got to break some China. And I look at this and I think, man, the institution of natural marriage, the cornerstone of civilization, that's a pretty expensive piece of china to drop on the floor. Let's listen.
For the most part, I think that people have liked the report. I mean, I had a good chat with conservatives today and members of our committee that are supportive. I don't get the sense at all that there's pushback, but it's a report from people that are giving us recommendations. It's a start. It doesn't mean that everything is going to be done. It just means that it's a report. I think it's a serious report. I think people were surprised about how serious it was, and that's basically the feedback I'm getting, that this was not a walk through the tulips. And so I feel good about that, and I think that our party needs it. You know what? If you got to break a few pieces of china here and there and have a serious conversation about how to rebuild the party, I think it's something we should be doing. And I also think that we have a history in our party that people totally respect and appreciate, which is the idea that my 80% friend doesn't make my 20% enemy, which means you have a party chairman that, number one, you don't throw Rob Portman under the bus because he may have a different view than I do on traditional marriage.
And see, the reality is, the question here, they're obviously not going to throw Rob Portman under the bus. In fact, Rob Portman has been promoted by Reince Priebus to bus captain. He's now bus driver. He's been lauded. He has been praised by Reince Priebus. He hasn't been thrown under the bus. He's been put in the driver's seat. So then the question is there room on the bus for guys like Tony Perkins and Brian Brown of the National Organization of Marriage? What's going to happen to them? Somebody is going to somebody's going to have to get thrown under the bus. And this is why Mark Levin, clip number 7, this is why Mark Levin, showing the kind of energy that would have generated multiple text messages from my wife during this tirade, goes off on the Republican leadership, and I think correctly so. Let's listen.
Look at the last 30 years. Who was the most successful Republican president electorally? Ronald Reagan. Of course the times have changed, but the principles haven't. Just apply them wisely. That's like saying the times have changed, so our Constitution needs to be living and breathing. No, it doesn't. These principles are inviolable. These rights are unalienable. The fact that the modern politician in the Republican Party is incapable of articulating them and applying them to modern society is the problem with that politician. The fact that the chairman of the Republican National Committee can't do it and the speaker can't do it is a problem with the Republican Party and its leadership. And if it's not changed, if these people aren't thrown out, we're going to lose. And the Republican Party is going to split, and there's going to be two parties.
So that's Mark Levin saying flat out, look, if we don't get a change in leadership in the Republican Party, and he's speaking as Republican, the Republican Party is going to split. It is going to crater on the rocks. Let's go to the phones. Let me open up my call screener software here just for a second. I forgot to crank that up at the beginning of the program. Let's go. Let me get to the right place here. Well, I better make sure I know where I'm at. Okay. Excuse me. Okay, let's see if we can start with, can we start with Bruce in Fruitport, Michigan?
Hello, Brian.
Yes, Bruce, how are you?
Well, I want to start off and say, you are definitely a blessing to the American people.
Thank you.
Getting out the information that you do that we don't hear anywhere else.
Well, thank you.
You and FR. In looking at it, the gentleman that misspoke about rape, they, probably wanted to remove him anyway because he was standing too strong for, his beliefs. And, they just use this as an opportunity to remove someone. And the gentleman, Rob Portman, who's speaking up about gays now, they wanted that. They want to go and change and become more like the Democrats, to meet in the middle. So, they're just using these opportunities to go and change everything the way that they want it. They're not going to say that right out, but that's exactly what it looks like.
Well, and I think you're right about that, Bruce. I think what you have, even though the Republican Party's platform is very solid, it's right down the line. It's a great piece of work, and the people that craft that Republican Party platform, Tony Perkins was on the platform drafting committee, Family Research Council. It is a great document. It enshrines conservative principles. And yet the Republican Party leadership, they are embarrassed by their own party's platform. Now, the Democrats aren't embarrassed by a single thing that's in their platform. They stand for it without apology. They stand for it without wavering. It's the Republicans that are embarrassed by the things that they are supposed to stand for. And I think, you're exactly right, Bruce. I think they just want these social issues to just go away. But if we're conservatives, if we want to bring back America as it was founded, then moral values have got to be front and center, and a vibrant Christianity has got to be front and center. George Washington said that of all of the habits and dispositions that make for political prosperity, religion and morality are indispensable supports. George Washington said you cannot have political prosperity. That would include economic prosperity and political stability. You can't have it without morality and religion. By religion, he meant Christianity. By morality, he meant the Ten Commandments, which means, number one, adultery is out, homosexuality is out, marriage, fidelity is in. Those are the things that the founder stood for. This country was built on those moral principles, and we've got to get back to those, and we cannot afford to have leadership in one of the major political parties. Right now, we have no political party, no major political party whose leadership is standing unapologetically on moral values right now, and that's part of why we're in the trouble that we're in. All right, Bruce, listen, I appreciate that call. Let's go to Terry in College Station, Texas. Terry, you're on Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Hey, Brian, first of all, thank you, and God bless all of you at AFR for all you do to fight for our rights in the Constitution and the Bible.
Thank you very much.
I hope you feel better real soon. You sound kind of plugged up when you
Boy,
put that on.
Yeah, I actually, to tell you the truth, Terry, I just feel absolutely, completely miserable today. So I appreciate your concern.
Well, I noticed it right away, and with Dan Furious, he has that problem a lot of times, too. But I wanted to make a comment and a suggestion from two books that I absolutely think are some of the best books, other than the Bible and the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, to read, is Personal Faith, Public Policy by Harry R. Jackson Jr., black man, and Tony Perkins, and another one called Resurgent, with Ken Blackwell and Ken Krakowski.
Yes.
On the Constitution.
Yes.
And I am from Hebrew Jewish background. My family had to go through Germany and the Holocaust, and the ones that survived had to become legal citizens. They had to work hard for a quarter an hour and kept in the slums up in the New York, Chicago area. And they had to work hard and learn the Constitution of that particular state and of the United States and the Declaration and the Independence. And I used to volunteer over in Bryan with the immigration people to teach those people how the Texas Constitution and the United States Constitution and the Declaration to follow if they wanted to be here, they needed to follow what our country believes and follows and respect it. And we've got so many people right here in this part of Texas, in the 5-county area that I live in, that are illegals, that there's no help or room for anybody that's been born and raised here anymore.
Now, let me ask you this question.
Hospitals all over Texas closing down because of illegals that are getting more rights than we have.
Well, and that's part of my concern, Terry, about the whole amnesty thing is, even Rand Paul, I've got his speech all marked up here in front of me. He talked about compassion. Compassion dictates that we go amnesty. And I think, well, at some point, if you're gonna bring compassion as a grid to look at the amnesty issue, the immigration issue, you've got at some point have to factor in compassion for the people that are impacted by illegal immigration, by the citizens whose lives are disrupted, whose jobs are lost, whose wallets are emptied to provide social services for illegals or medical care, whose hospitals are closed because they go out of business providing care for illegal aliens. I mean, if you're going to talk about compassion, you've got to bring that into the mix at some point.
That personal faith public policy book, that's what it talks about. It says, even in the Bible and in the Constitution, for the compassion of people, but yes, there's people that can come into this country, but they need to do it legally or they need not to be here.
Yeah.
And look at Ted Cruz. I voted for that young man. He is one of the most powerful young speakers in politics I have ever heard.
Yeah, he's great.
Decades. And I am so proud of him because look what his daddy went through. His daddy was 16 when he came here, and he worked just like my ancestors. He worked for a quarter an hour, just about slave labor, to become a citizen, and he never dreamed that his son would become a Texas senator.
That was something, wasn't it? Well, let me ask you one last question, Terry. We're kind of running out of time here, but and this what you were doing was you were involved in assimilation for these immigrants. You were helping them introduce them to the Texas Constitution.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if you were introducing the U.S. Constitution or others were doing that, but these were legal immigrants that you were instructing?
Some of them were illegal, and they were coming in to be citizens and they were getting. I walked in the post office the other day, and somebody's getting a green card that I know is illegal. He's done this over and over again.
So the question I have, that's one of the concerns I've got is if somebody's sneaking in here, I mean, they're kind of sending a signal right away. They really don't care about our customs and our respect for the rule of law. I mean, they've sort of dissing our Constitution and our national sovereignty even by being here. So you got to wonder what are the chances are that they are going to be fully assimilated as Americans, even if they are legalized. All right, Terry, listen, I appreciate the call. Thank you for that. Focal Point AFR Talk. We'll be back after the news. Stay with us.
American